space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, are Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Dragon.
And we continue this week with the Dominion War. It's been good being able to do some DS9.
Shall we do the Trek news first?
Oh, go on, Elliot. Do the Trek news.
Well, actually, even before that, just a word from our sponsors. Not only are we, as always, brought to you by the lovely people from Copperberg who are still to send us anything.
And those wonderful producers of Sauvignon Blanc.
Yep, but also Lemsip tonight, because I got the man flus. I may not make it to the end of the show. Like, Elliot started coughing as soon as I came on the call. That's how contagious it is.
And I still have the Pepsi Max Cherry, which is the choice of a new generation. The sugar-free choice.
Where's our free stuff?
I know. It's just not happening, is it?
On some actual real shit that we've got to cover.
Go on, Elliot. Actual Trek news.
Actual Trek news. We got a new trailer for Picard yesterday.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
We got the trailer for the release of the new trailer.
Oh, the trailer for the trailer.
Yeah,
this was cut into a football advert, wasn't it?
Well, there's obviously sponsoring the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's the Super Bowl this Sunday, which is, I think it's 6:45 EST.
Yeah,
right.
As much as I think
you'll put it about 1:15 in the morning UK time. And during the halftime adverts, we are getting the new advert.
Oh, I love
Picard.
I've got to say.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's like, I mean, as much as like generally, I'm getting really pissed off with this thing of like, right, tomorrow they're going to announce the day when they're going to release the pre-trailer for the trailer, which is before the trailer. I think it's bullshit, but we did get some new clips even out of the trailer because they cut it into some inspirational quotes from it. They cut in the football to like cross-pollinate.
Yeah, it was about a 1 minute, 1 minute, 11 seconds, I think it was, trailer for the trailer.
Oh, that means the actual trailer's going to be longer than 1 minute.
Yeah, for the final full trailer before Picard Season 3 on February the 16th, is it? We get it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's something like that, yeah.
It's coming soon. So, yeah, I do like Super Bowl because we get all the movie trailers and stuff as well. It's always good fun seeing like which trailers dropped during the Super Bowl. Yeah. And because we live in the digital age now, we actually get to see them. Whereas it used to be you had to wait for Empire magazine to come out a month later and have like a couple of stills from it. And that was the closest you got back in the day.
And the one thing which I love about the pre-trailer bits that we got is that it was, as I say, it was an inspirational speech used to cross-advertise the football match, the American football match. But the one thing I did love is that it proves there is a Picard inspirational speech in this one. It's something I've been missing in the last two series. I don't feel like he's like Picard. He's famed for his inspirational speeches.
He is.
The last episode where he convinced, like what to them was a new crew of the Enterprise, to put their spuds on the Barbie, to go into like certain death just through a nifty speech. In the films, he always had one, and like it's been missing the last two series. So it was cut down as well. You could tell it was edited because there's a bit where his voice just cuts off a bit abruptly, so there's more inspirational speech to come. So I was well happy. That's what I want. I just want Picard to give an inspirational speech.
Maybe they'll do a whole episode of inspirational speech.
I would be happy.
Like 45 minutes. Like, what is it they call it in America? A filibuster. Maybe he has to do a filibuster.
Everyone else
he just has to keep going.
What the fuck is that? I'm going, it was my dream. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. So back to DS9 then. I don't think we get any inspirational speeches in this one, but neither of these. But we'll talk about it.
Cisco isn't so much of the inspirational speeches. He's more like, just kind of like he's quite an actiony.
He's proper hamming it up this episode.
He does do a bit of ham in this one. It has to be said.
No, this is a whole side of bacon.
Yeah, that's what I said. A couple of times, I will defend it in this episode that I think it was good hack. Like it's like with Shatner. Sometimes it works beautifully, other times looks like you're just shooting the scenery for the sake of it now.
I do think we're onto something with the theory that Avery Brooks is actually a disciple of Nicolas Cage's Nouveau Shaman. Avery might have pioneered it before Nick Cage gave it a name.
You cross Nick Cage with William Shatner, and I want to say some black hero, which like should be in the mix, obviously, and you get Avery Brooks, like the performance-wise.
So, and also, I think it's worth saying that even though this is our Dominion War series, these are both linked to the ongoing storyline, but are not Dominion War heavy episodes. But we couldn't not cover them because it's too important.
Well, we were looking for one, weren't we? So we could do In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light as a one episode.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, when you actually watch these two, I think Rapture is more Dominion War adjacent.
Yeah, it definitely
than the Begotten, which is the one that we were going to do. And then looking for a second episode.
And we were
say Rapture. Is it because for me, the main thread which goes into that is that Bajor doesn't join the Federation because they would get consumed by a plague locust, which is the Dominion, as far as I can see. But I thought a founder heavy episode, and it gives Odo his changeling abilities back. I thought that was heavy. What struck out for you?
Well, it's because of Cisco having the vision about the Dominion, and he ruins it. But also, this is the first episode that we can 100% say for certain. This is a changeling Bashir.
It is.
And when you look at some of his decisions this episode, you can think, oh, that's really sneaky. That's a chip. Why he's doing that. And why he's so adamant straight away because he's a changeling.
I love that. I forgot to even think of that when I was watching it. Oh, I'm looking forward to your insights on this.
So I think also when we originally planned out the Dominion War arc, we generally avoided the emissary stories, but I think because we've covered Rapture, we're also going to cover the Reckoning when we get to it, because that's very much a companion piece. And it's important to the Power Rave storyline and everything. So I think we need to build that one in when we get to it as well.
As well as that, I mean, obviously, you were saying about Bashir there, a bloody brilliant episode for Sid, if I may say so. He insists I call him that from
I know it is.
Two interviews I've done with him. The one which you can catch on youtube.com/Dr. Squee. You can catch both those. Fantastic.
I feel like Sid is pretty much part of the family now, so I don't think he'd mind myself and Admiral Elliot calling him Sid either.
I do tend to refer to him as Sid now, knowing that's how he prefers to be. That's how he prefers to be called.
And you two did get a shout out in the.
I noticed.
Yeah.
There we go.
I was watching. I missed, I think, the first 10 minutes of it because we were getting back from hospitals, but.
Yeah, I resist the temptation. I was so tempted to go. It's like, and little Jim King and Elliot have written in. I don't. I thought no. Come on. Give them the propers.
Thank you. The city of Valhalla. Then this is Valhalla. This is the thing of this episode, and it starts with Cisco and he's. He hasn't discovered it yet, but basically they've got an artifact that he's had redirected to the station so he can have a bit of a...
Yeah, it's one of the... something the Kardashians seized in the occupation.
Yeah.
Petitioning for it to be returned. It's taken 5 years for the Kardashians to go, actually, it is yours. Yeah, you can have it back. Which is a lot faster, I've got to say, than the British Museum has done of any of their artifacts.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this is why Sid isn't in the opening scene with that British accent. They're like, keep him away from it. People are going to make too many parallels. I mean, I do love, though, that Kira says, like, this is the only proof that we've got that this place actually existed. What, a painting? I hate to split hairs here, but it's not the biggest proof ever.
No, like, you know, you cannot, like, I've seen paintings with, like, the Daleks fighting Godzilla, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
What, that the Daleks fought Godzilla, or that there's really Daleks or there's really Godzilla? What
I mean,
there's
definitely really Daleks. I mean, Daleks. I mean, I've met them. I know they exist. But yeah, I think there was also a few conveniences as well here of the things that Cisco works out. There are some things with the visions and stuff. That's fine. But it's to begin with, like, where he sees a shadow, which no one else has picked up on ever. Like,
yeah, the reflection of the back of the tablet in the waterfall. And it's like, really? Has nobody...
It reminds me of on... Red Dwarf did an excellent piss take of this sort of thing. They were referencing Blade Runner, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
There's a photo, and they kind of like, Cat goes, right, zoom in on that quarter. Right, zoom in the reflection of that mirror. Now, reverse it. Now, from that mirror, zoom in on that shop window. Zoom in on that book. You know, it's like, it's up there on that level, I think.
It is. I think the thing is, though, it's not, because it's not that obscure, but it's too obvious for it to be something that people have missed for so many years.
The thing about this, how he enhances it. Normally, you enhance a photograph or a digital image. This is something someone's painted. So it actually is just a brush line like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It isn't that it's something that's being distorted
by the water.
I'm saying though, it's like even more reason why you'd see it then. Like, you know, it's.
I think what we have to assume is that the Bajoran artist first painted an exact, as though he were painting it in a mirror. He painted all the hieroglyphs and everything. Then he painted the water over it.
Right.
Yeah, which
it's a bit like that. It's one of the early TNG episodes, and it's where there's that assassin, and she's being genetically altered to never age, and she's hundreds of years old. Trying to write off another, and they have a photograph, and there's a tiny sliver of hair you can see behind someone, and you extrapolate what her entire face looks like.
Well, actually, I've got it, Jim. You've actually, I think, solved how they could have done it, because they once scanned the Mona Lisa, I think it was, and they found a preliminary picture behind it, and they did it. It's something to do with the age.
That's true. They did do that. Yeah.
If they'd done that, that would have been better. Like, I would have gone, fair enough. Bajor might not have thought to do that. Maybe he's the first one. You know, maybe when they scanned it in, it picked that up. You know, for the first time ever. You know, it just give me a little bit more. It was like when, and I did love this episode, by the way, but I just want to get all this out of the way first.
Yeah, get it out of the way.
It was when Kira said, it's like, oh God, this suddenly reminds me of the prophecy that only one who's been touched by the prophecy. Well, you didn't think of that when it got beamed up by the fucking emissary. That didn't spring to your mind before.
The third prophecy of somebody or other.
Yeah, and also, everyone's having these bloody orb visions. So, you know, you could have... Kira's had an orb experience already. Yeah. Barial has. Kywin has. Or has she? Maybe not.
Anyone. Not one of the monks went, it's like, wait a minute, the emissary wants to see this, and that prophecy says
that's the prophecy.
Let's get it there now. You know, it's like
no, I reckon they did know that, but they went, shh, don't jinx the prophecy. Shh. It has to play out. But we've got the new uniforms, as we've alluded to. And I'm just going to put it out there, Cisco's comm badge is in the wrong place all episode. I don't know why. I've never known why. The only thing I can think of is they thought, or maybe let's try the captain wears it somewhere different to distinguish them.
I think it's because he's already suffering from Valhalla, and he's just not thinking properly, and he's just gone like that.
He's just whacking his comm badge on anywhere on the morning.
Or he's put it where ancient Bajorans was.
I was going to say, it's part of the vision is to put the comm badge up there. It's also like, apparently part of the vision is for the whole crew to button up the outfit to the way which they never do. Another episode.
No, never do that again.
Team never do it in the movies. I think they just got them and they go, oh, well, just assume they're meant to be done up. Then they saw the movie and they're going, oh shit, okay, that's much
right. And Cisco's like, oh, but that, in fact, that's probably what happened. Patrick Stewart probably said, like, well, actually, you know, I, as the captain, did have my combat job here. Don't worry, when it comes out, you'll see, Avery, I did.
I'll definitely button it up all the way.
And then, Avery Brooks is on the phone to Patrick Stewart afterwards. Oh, you bastard!
It's Prankster Picard's been at it again. That was his catchphrase.
It's only Avery Brooks. I'm just going to put the phone down. He'll be talking for another half hour.
He was trying to get Prankster Picard trending, but it was really before Twitter had taken off. So, it was worth a try.
But talking about the jacket, when we next see Cisco and he's on the holodeck, he's loosened the buttons down and you can see the vest below it, which begs the question, do they always have this vest on under the uniforms? That must be bloody warm.
Yeah, I imagine it's part of the uniform.
Well, they must be boiling then.
No, because it's space fabric.
Oh, of course.
Oh, space! That's so close to space magic. I love it.
It's almost space magic adjacent.
Yeah. So it's the fabric. It's warm when it needs to be, cool when it doesn't need to be.
Exactly. It's space magic. It's special.
Yeah.
Okay.
Works for me.
And then Quark offers him a pleasure maze, which
has a special prize in the centre.
I should imagine so. Yeah. And I don't think we need to say much more about that. I'm sure we can all conjure up what might be involved in a Ferengi pleasure maze. And then, Cisco gets zapped, and this is when he starts having the visions. Odo arrests Quark for it, because why not?
I like Quark's excuse, though. That it's all O'Brien's fault.
Well, it probably is. I mean,
I've been asking for maintenance from the station to come, or I've been asking for Ron to come and fix them because he's the only one who can. And Chief O'Brien wouldn't give him the day off to fix my holosuites. He wanted him actually working, doing his job. How bad is that?
And I'm betting all that O'Brien said was like, just put in a maintenance request and someone will come fix it. But they go, no, I want Ron on a day off. It's like,
what gets me is how he actually says it's got to be Ron. He goes, my idiot brother is the only person who can fix the holodecks. Well, it's obviously not that much of an idiot, is it?
Yeah, they've shown the hodgepodge before, and they address it in one episode where they say it's like, I wouldn't have to do these jobs if you actually paid for a proper repair.
That's true. Yeah, that's probably it. He's the only one who'll do it that Quark cannot pay to do it.
He's probably the only one who understands the hodgepodge he's already done on it.
Yeah. I wonder if by the end of this episode then, when he finds out that it's actually a religious thing that's happened, I wonder if he does a lawsuit against the prophets or a lawsuit against the Bajoran church or something. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I mean, have you ever seen the film "The Man Who Sued God" with Billy Connolly? I mean, it's not a route to go down. I mean, it's not as bad as some people said, but
I enjoy it as a movie.
It's a sort of fair throwaway movie.
I think it's quite a good premise where his insurance won't pay out, and they say it's an act of God, and he wants paid, so he goes, "Fine, I'm going to sue God then."
I mean, let's face it. It's not quite enough for me to sustain like an hour and a half or whatever it was, and it's Billy Connolly kind of makes it work because he's just brilliant.
I think that's why I enjoy it.
Yeah, Billy Connolly's awesome. Now this reminds me that there is a bit of a link here. I'm not just randomly talking about wrestling, though. This weekend, Royal Rumble, check it out. There was a match. Oh, it must be over 10 years ago now, where Shawn Michaels, who is a born-again Christian at this point, was going to was in a big rivalry with Vince McMahon, the evil owner of the WWE, who you can Google him to see what he's been up to recently, but it's not nice reading. However, Vince brought in his son, Shane, as his tag team partner for this upcoming event, and he said, like, Shawn Michaels, you need a tag team partner. And because you have such a close relationship with him, your tag team partner will be God. And so they advertised this match, and it was Vince and Shane versus Shawn Michaels and God. And they had Vince and Shane stood in the ring, and they were like, and now coming down to the ring, it is God. And they just had a spotlight that came down and followed it all the way up to the ring. And then when it got into the ring, Vince was like talking to the referees, going, check him for illegal objects. And he's making the referee pat down God in the back.
How did they get away with this in America? Like over here, I wouldn't be that surprised, but Jesus.
Well, Shawn Michaels and God did win the match, so
that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean,
and
Jesus, literally.
If you're interested in wrestling matches where one of the competitors is not there, Google Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan, and it's an absolutely classic encounter where it's basically just a referee and the Invisible Man and the Invisible Stan, who's Invisible Man's evil brother, are fighting each other.
Nice.
So there you go. Anyway, back to what's going on in DS9. So Cassidy's coming back. We've not covered what
appearance in season 5.
Is it?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
And while she was in prison for 6 months, she was contractually obliged or tied to the whose show was it? She was a regular on a show. I can't remember whose show it was, but she was contractually obliged. That's why.
That's why we don't see much of her.
She was off for 6 months, and why you only get her in this one episode of season 5.
If someone can Google that and put it in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah,
I mean, the one thing I did think, though, is that kind of explains it a little bit, but it's like, I thought it was an interesting choice to reintroduce her in an episode where she's got to be, like, they've got to talk about their love so much, and it just seemed really weird that she's just come back on the station, and it's like, I guess his visions kind of bypass it a little bit, because you can say it's like, well, he can see beyond the time of the moment. So there's a bit of an excuse, but it did seem a weird moment to reintroduce her.
She's sort of a bit confused by it all, because when she first comes in, you can see she's very tentative and she's trying to work out, where is our relationship now, and do we have to rebuild things, and is it going to work? And Cisco's just like, come with me to Valhalla.
I do like though, like you're saying that, is it because of the Prophet's Way, all this thing that he's done? But you do realise that he's this has been all the time for 6 months, because he goes, do you want your quarters back? I had some sway with the CEO. Everything is still where you left it.
Oh, yeah. No, I know that. But it's like, I mean, at the end of the episode, it kind of explains why he's in that point. But it's like, she's so tentative. And then by the end of the episode, she goes, look what you've got here, this loving family. It's like, you just come back after 6 months. Give it a minute.
Yeah. On the other side of that, though, I do enjoy the fact that it takes a very grown-up adult approach to a relationship. And, in a lot of TV and in Star Trek previously, it would be like, well, she worked for the Maquis, that's it, over, done with. Yeah. But the fact that they go, okay, they're both adults, they love each other, she's made a mistake, they can patch that up. But like you say, we do bypass completely the patching up in this episode.
Which would have been a really great episode but again, like what Elliot's saying makes sense of it now, because you'd think you'd get an episode where she comes back on board, you play that out, you play the awkwardness, you play,
Yeah, I think maybe it is a thing like, as Elliot points out, if they had it for one episode, maybe they were just like, we need Cassidy to take on this function in this episode, so let's just make Cisco go all weird. And,
also, if you're going to have her for one episode, you don't want that awkwardness and then for her to disappear for ages. And also, equally, if you're going to have her going forward in the show, you don't want one episode and then not see her for months after an awkward episode. Yeah, you want to use it to the best of her ability.
It's really strange though, because you have this where she's all back into his life, and then she's not in for the rest of the season. This is only halfway through the season. So by camera, by what we saw when this was actually broadcast, it's nearly 9 months until we see her again.
True, yeah.
In fact,
I
can't remember which episode she comes back in season 6.
They always had that thing with Cassidy, though, that because she's a freighter captain, she's often away.
Yeah.
Before that, though, Cisco is making shapes out of his food, which is it feels like a Close Encounters, very obvious reference to Close Encounters. So enjoy that.
Obvious.
Yeah.
And then the other thing running under it is we just get the Admiral turn up and go, well, as you know, Bajor's about to join the Federation. And you're like, whoa, that's like the main thing of the show. And we're just dropping it in mid-episode. Oh, yeah, that's sorted. That's about to happen.
Can I throw something out there? That scene, that Admiral looked really awkward on the view screen. It was all right later on in the episode. I just felt he was like, it felt like he was just reading an auto cue of the screen, which I'm sure he was.
I thought his performance was very much like that throughout. He has this very...
I was trying to be
sort of flat way of delivering everything. It's everything so matter of fact, just like, well, Ben, we're going to join. They're not going to join the Federation anymore. Okay, Ben.
Yes, I will have the champagne on ice then. Yeah.
Which we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I mean,
but
I think it was even worse on the view screen because he probably wasn't acting directly with Avery, or maybe it was the screen. I don't know.
Maybe. So Cassidy does get swept up on the quest and everything. And there's a bit where they're going through the caves and Cisco says, it's just around the bend. It's like, you're the one who's around the bend, mate, at this point, Good choice of language there.
What was it? We're 200 meters underground. How do you know where you're going? Oh, it's just around the corner. I've never been here before, but I just know. Here we are. Wait, that's just a stone wall. Yeah, it's behind there. He gets phaser out. And I do love the phaser setting that they have for this.
Yeah, the break down the wall, disintegrate the wall setting.
Melt stone so it disintegrates into steam.
Yeah, into a perfect doorway shape.
Well, Eddie Izzard used to have this bit where they would say, I believe she goes under now. She would say that the phaser should have had more settings than just killing. So it's like fancy an ice cream setting, so everyone gets distracted and just goes for ice cream. She obviously didn't watch enough of the episodes. There's so many settings they don't even mention. Just melt the wall exactly the door shape that we want.
I think in the original series they mentioned the phasers having 9 settings.
Yeah. But it's they are usually broken into stun and kill, but we all know there's several other things. Heat the rock setting, which they never really call that.
Heat the rock setting is a frequent one,
yeah. Heat the rock setting, but vaporize rocks is...
Vaporized rocks effect. And it vaporizes it almost, I'm maybe being cynical here, but almost as though part of the set had a little breakaway section that you could remove to reveal a doorway, and the phaser does it perfectly to make it look like that, which I'm very impressed with it. Then there's a good bit with Odo where he's talking to who is it now? Oh, there's Worf and Kira. And on one side, you've got Worf saying it is naval tradition that you have to sit so-and-so there and so-and-so there.
It's there for the quarters, isn't it? The size of the quarters.
And then Kira's there going, well, that's a Vedic, so that... And you can just see Odo getting so pissed off with it, like, well, you just let me sort out the security. I don't care about this and that, and...
Thank goodness I've never had to do event planning, but I've seen people who have had to deal with shit like that. Oh my God, I do not envy them one bit.
Not at all.
Someone on the writing staff was like, oh, put this in. There's a certain portion of your audience will love this, trust me.
And the closest I've ever come is like trying to organise who sits where at my wedding, and it's like, well, you can't put Auntie Edie with Uncle Tommy because they don't like each other, and then...
Well, it's also like... I used to work at a hotel like we did,
of course,
3 weddings every Saturday.
Yeah.
And the meeting for it is there's protocols of how it goes and who'll be on the top table. And like bridegroom do have a say, but there's proper protocols. And in serving as well, you're serving a certain order. Because I remember a waiter getting absolutely demolished because his friends were at a wedding. So he went and served them first. He thought that was sensible.
Oh.
Yeah, because I mean, like...
He got absolutely demolished over it.
Yeah, and apparently, as I learned from when I was planning my wedding, it's not an acceptable answer. It's like, oh, tough shit. They can just they can sit next to each other. Apparently, that's not an acceptable answer.
No,
that marriage did end in
absolutely
divorce.
not.
I don't know if it's connected, but
Yeah, it was all to do with your seating plan. Kai Wynn, then, she says at this point she actually believes Sisko's the emissary. So bit of a turn from her, but we're gonna keep an eye on Kai Wynn and her.
We do get quite a nice dig here by Yoda at Kai Wynn. Because we have where they're arguing about the quarters. Kai Wynn walks in and she needs Kira. So Kira goes, yes, and she goes, good luck sorting this out, she says to Odo and Worf, and Odo turns around. I was about to say the same thing to you.
Yeah.
I mean, always a pleasure to have Fletcher. What's her first name? Louise Fletcher. Always a pleasure to have her on. And I do love the fact they did throw in these little moments which just kind of kept you guessing of her actually being nice and like, oh, is this going to be the moment where she actually turns good, And she always defeats it in the end. But it's just...
There's a nice little character beat where she talks about... Well, I wasn't a resistance fighter, but I was a religious prisoner during the oppression. And you're like, wow, actually, that was probably horrific, so it does give you a little bit more sympathy towards her.
Because unless I'm wrong, we never got a Mirror Universe version of her.
No,
I think it's because they like to keep you guessing with this version. I think I don't know if it's purposeful. It was just the episode she was available.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah. She'd have been lovely in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, she'd have been really nice.
But I think the fact they didn't have that meant you're always guessing about our version, like the Prime Universe version, which, I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but it was certainly worked out as clever, I think.
Yeah. And then it's around this time that Avery Brooks does start to crank it up a little bit. And we get the stuff where he's like, don't worry, Admiral, your son forgives you, and all this stuff.
Well, there is a lovely scene. I don't know if we've gone past it or it's yet to come. Have we gone past the bit where he kind of... he gets wakened from the vision by Kira.
Yeah, but we can jump back to that.
Oh yeah, just want to check I wasn't jumping forward. But it's like
no.
There was one bit where he does that kind of acting with her, where I thought actually really worked because it sounded like a parent talking to a child, which I thought fit that scene rather well. It's like it's okay. If you were having a fit, I would have woken you too.
What did she call it? A pump-for-tar?
Yeah, but
you're having a pump-for-tar.
Yeah.
What was it? A personal vision where no one else sees it. And it's well, that's every vision, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
I just thought it was really because, he was meant to seem ethereal and above our understanding. So talking like he was talking to a child all seemed right somehow. I like that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
and I do like the relationship between Kira and Sisko. Like, if it's totally a station matter, she will argue with him till she's blue in the face, but she has this religious reverence for him as well.
As soon as it's religion, it's like, go, do it. I trust you.
That was a line which she gives, I think it's later in the episode, but she says at one stage, it's like, I never really believed in the religious side. It's like, you've always believed in the religious side, right from the bloody pilot.
We had an episode of that, didn't we? Where the ship gets almost blown up,
isn't it?
Yes.
And she's talking to him and she goes, I've always found it difficult to talk to you because I see you as a religious icon.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how that line got through at the end there. It was like, did the writer of that line watch any other episodes of the show?
Yeah, that is a good point. Bashir then, and this is where we get into some of the interesting changeling stuff. Because his first diagnosis, he says, well, he'll die if these visions carry on. And knowing what we know later, you do have to question that and go, is that actually true? Or is this the changeling wanting rid of the visions?
To be fair, when he first gets electrocuted and all that, and he's bit weird, he goes, oh yeah, just enjoy it. You'll see some colours for a few days. And then
because he's expecting to wear off.
He's quite happy for the visions to carry on when he's telling the Admiral, oh, your son forgives you, and other bits and pieces. And he only says he might die, I need to operate, as soon as he mentions locusts attacking Voyager. And it's only as soon as he comes out with that, and it's a reference to the Dominion attacking. It's only as soon as he comes out with that from the vision that straight away Bashir is there. Got to operate or you'll die. I've got to.
And he even says earlier that it's like he says first of all it should pass in a couple of days, which if you had it through that prism, maybe knew that it wouldn't, and it would probably kill him. And also he says that when he's talking about the operation to begin with, like later on in the episode, it's like, I must do this operation. It's going to save his life. Earlier on, it's like, well, I could do this and it might work. He actually says about the same operation earlier on that, it might work. It sounded like a punt. And later on, it's more like, this will certainly save his life. You know,
He's quite happy for him to carry on with the visions while he was finding Valhalla, or whatever it's called. Valhalla is looking for
Valhalla.
But it was quite happy for it all to carry on. And it's only as soon as you start mentioning in Voyager being attacked and locusts flying in, he got the reference that's about the Dominion attacking. And straight away it was, got to operate or he'll die.
It's when he says like you can just see Bashir in the background going.
Yeah, there's a reaction shot later on, but I'll talk about it when we get to it. There is a really good scene where they're talking to Cassidy and Jake about, right, well, this is what's happening to him, and these are the decisions he has to make and whatnot. And it's like, well, he's choosing not. And I think that's a really good scene in terms of the impact it's having on the family and everything. And then we get to the meeting scene, which...
are we talking about the operation where he's talking to the family?
Yeah.
Like, this is really interesting because he says, Cisco has said adamantly on his medical records not to operate. And that is done. It's like, my dad has to do not resuscitate. I cannot alter that no matter what.
I know,
but Bashir turns round to Jake and goes, if you tell me I can, as his family, I'll do it.
No, he doesn't say. He doesn't. They don't mention a DNR. The devil might be in the detail here. They don't mention it as a DNR. He didn't want the operation. Once they go unconscious, unless he signed a DNR, they can't. The next of kin can still override his wishes.
He's already specifically said he does not want this operation.
Yeah, but that's a difference between signing a DNR. Like you can turn down an operation, and once you're unconscious, your family can override it. If you sign something saying you don't want to be extreme measures used to bring you round, that's when there's a DNR, and they can't override that.
But I'm just wondering if this is a bit dodgy where...
No, I think that one, by the letter of the law, that one passes, because otherwise...
No, well, I was thinking Bashir is like playing things because he's a changeling and he hasn't been trapped from what Cisco said. And he's taking advantage of the fact that Cisco is now unconscious.
Oh, I get that. I'm just
saying to get what he wants to stop the visions by knowing that Jake will say, do the operation. If I tell Jake, if you say I can, I can. Where I'm saying what I'm saying is I don't think he'd actually be allowed to carry out the operation.
I mean, I'm just going by today's medicine. If a DNR is signed, that's something that can be overrun. If you said, I don't want this operation, as soon as you're unconscious, someone can do it on your behalf. It depends if Starfleet medicine works the same as our medicine.
It depends.
But that's how I would. It was Bashir wants to stop the visions at this point, and he's taking advantage of the fact that Cisco is unconscious and manipulating Jake and bending the rules to get what he
I
wants.
think you could
I just think
read
the
it
rules.
that way.
I think the rules work in his favour on this occasion. He's definitely trying to get that as the outcome, but
Yeah.
I think just the rules happen to work in his favour. It's the next scene which I thought was interesting because there's a bit where.
Sorry, there's just some racing going on outside.
Did you have a curry before you came on? It was no, it's the bit where Kira talks to Kai and Kai Wynn, and she goes, "It's like, I would have trusted the prophets." It's like Kira's response to that should have been, "It's like, well, if it was a human god, would you have trusted them?" That's the real parallel. It's not like, yeah, you trust the prophets because that's your gods, like, you know,
Mhm.
not Jake's gods. If you want to put it in a real parallel, would you have trusted Earth's god, or, you know, mankind's god?
Yeah, exactly.
So a portion of
You-
mankind's god, I will be very specific here. Just
Yeah, would you trust the Klingon god to make this decision? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a consequence.
Absolutely not, because the Klingons killed our leg god centuries ago.
Exactly.
So if someone came
and-
along saying they were a Klingon god, I'd go, "You're a fake. I know that you've already been killed."
And
but this is their heaven, so they could be ghosts.
And we'll come back to this when we get to the Reckoning episode, because in that episode, Kai Wynn is in that exact situation and she doesn't trust the prophets, whereas Cisco does. So her faith is not necessarily as strong as she might want us to believe.
Oh, and that was my point. It was like at this stage, because Jake goes against the prophets. I wondered if that in that episode, that's why they chose Jake, partly as like they wanted to sass Cisco, but like maybe part of it is like, well, he's gone against the prophets before.
Yeah, it could well be. Yeah,
towards our way of thinking. It's kind of a they probably didn't think of that, but it's a nice little extra layer. To put into it.
So the meeting scene then. So Cisco bursts in, and they're like, "Oh, you need to get back to hospital, Ben. You know, calm down." And he's like, "No, I need to talk to them." And they go on then, we'll let you talk to them. And then he just goes, "They must not join the Federation, the Locusts." And they must have just been like, shit, we thought he was just going to say something silly, but I can't believe we let him do that.
I mean, it is so, like, this is why it's so well written that, like, because if it was any other situation, obviously drummed out Starfleet for that shit. But it's like, because he's an emissary, every time that the Federation should discipline and don't, you can always point to that. It's like, well, he's an important spiritual leader to the Bajorans. They don't like it, but if they try and do anything about it, that's the only thing which would have been interesting. Maybe if they'd done an episode where Section 31 tried to take out Cisco, like, because they did.
At least had the Admiral acknowledge it, because at the end it's just like, "Oh, okay, Ben, I'll put the champagne on ice."
Well,
and it's like,
acknowledge it. It does acknowledge it. It goes, "I'd have you drummed out Starfleet, but you are the emissary." It does actually say, "Does the Admiral?"
I still think he doesn't. It is just kind of like, no harm done. Like, no, there has been a bit of harm done. Let's not downplay it.
But he does. To be fair, Cisco does always tell him that Bejour will join the Federation.
He does.
And he tells him that he's sure of it, not only as a Starfleet captain, but also as the emissary.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the only thing which I think works towards the Federation believing it as well, the other thing I should say, is the fact that they do believe the wormhole aliens do exist outside their time.
Yeah.
So when he says that, there is some gravitas to the fact that, well, they can see the future and they've given him these visions. So,
there is. Yeah, he's not just being totally random, despite outward appearances of that. I think we should close out this episode, though, with one of the best Avery Brooksisms, which is where he just goes, "You took them away!"
No! Yeah, it was
Brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah.
He neither glided nor slalom that one.
No, not that one. So let's move on to the Begotten then. So this is an Odo episode with a silly subplot about Kira and the baby. But
yeah, I could not give a flying shit about that.
All the way through this episode, let's bear in mind that Dr. Bashir is a changeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And may I also throw in, unusually for Star Trek, this episode opens with an act of slavery. Like,
Mhm.
now, I want to be very clear. As woke and like I'm like, call me Wokenstein's monster. I don't give a shit. I'm not having a go at this episode really, but it's kind of interesting given that Star Trek is usually white and white, and I know DS9 is the kind of bad boy of Star Trek to this point, but still to have like literally. Quark sells Odo a living being, and when he finds out, let me finish, Elliot. Let me finish. When he realizes that it's because he goes, "Oh, it's dead, so I'll charge you cheaper." It's like, no, it's still alive. Oh, I'll double the price then. And then he's going, it's like, but it's still 50. Like I'll go halfway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're haggling based on the living or deadness of this being.
It is. It's. I love that. It's 5 strips of latinum. It's dead. It's alive. 10 strips. It's sick. 8 then.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally haggling over a living
Now,
being.
I would like to pick you up on this because you did say this earlier on that it was, slavery, and I thought about it. And there is no evidence that this changeling is being treated as a slave. So this is human trafficking. It is the sale of a human being.
Yeah,
We don't know what the
It's just a
purpose
bit
of
of family fun, human trafficking. You're right. No,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think this is more like human trafficking.
No, but
I'm
I'm-
with you on this, James.
So let's not cast aspersions here.
And also, it is very Star Trek to save someone from in a position where they're going to be sold to liberate them, which is what
Exactly.
I actually does. But
And
like
I also
literally,
want to-
Quark does do stuff like this in a few episodes, but every other time he gets picked up on it. This is the only time when he gets away with actually selling a living being.
I do want to pick up that. I think why he gets away with it, and I also want to defend Odo because I don't think there's any haggling going on here.
Nothing's wrong with Odo.
Odo is just immediately.
Yeah.
He sees it's a changeling, and he's hardly taking notice of what Quark's saying. So Quark's asking for 5, and he goes, "It's alive." And he's not taking any notice that Quark doubles the price.
Yeah.
Quark is the only one human trafficking. Odo is pure in this. Like Odo's fine.
And I do think
nothing.
Because he's so driven, because he's a changeling, I do think he just lets it slide and he's just going for the line of least resistance.
Yeah.
Like, I could have him arrested and it taken off him, but you know what, bugger it, I'll just pay him his strips of latinum and that'll speed it up.
Like Elliot says, I don't think he even thinks about it. I think it's just he puts a pad to his thumb. He doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
But usually it would be written so that someone would pick Quark up on it at some point in the episode. It's just interesting. This is the one time Quark gets away with human trafficking in an episode of Star Trek. I still think that's worth note, even though I'm not
definitely is.
I still think it's a very well written episode.
I didn't actually pick up on the fact he got away with it, but I think it's nice that he gets away with things every now and again.
Yeah, maybe lesser offences.
No, but we know that he makes money in the background and with stuff going on. So he obviously does. He obviously we see quite often he gets caught, but there obviously is off screen lots of times when he does pull off his schemes.
Oh,
and
definitely.
This is just one of those rare occasions where we see him pulling off something, and he's got away with it, no problem.
Yeah, it's just what it is. That was my only point.
Yeah.
And to be fair to Quark, it was off to sell it for 5 strips of latinum, and he actually got 8.
Yeah, so he's done even better on it.
He got 60% more than what he wanted.
As long as he's successfully human trafficking, I would draw my attention.
Talking of Bashir, though, do we think, I know ultimately the Bashir changeling is revealed to have a very specific mission, but do we think he's also on the station to keep an eye on human Odo?
Yeah.
So you could say human trafficking. He's just there to oversee that.
Yeah,
because he looks very interested when it's mentioned it's a changeling.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have theories on this because it's very ill at first. And Bashir takes it away and it's all off camera. And he comes back and says, I've managed to get rid of most of the radiation because it's obviously being irradiated, which is what's made it sick. And I wonder if he's actually linked with it to make it better.
It could have done, yeah, absolutely. Which inadvertently would have infected it with the virus, which might be what kills it.
Yeah.
I would also throw out a little thing that where you've got changing,
which is also why
station.
Odo gets the virus back, because Odo was made of solid, so he no longer had the changeling virus.
But I just like to throw out also where they've got changing Bashir on the station. I wonder if the whole thing was to monitor Odo in his human form. Like, I've never thought there's kind of like wrinkle on it. That, like, the moment we can pinpoint him being on there is after he's been changed into a solid. I wonder if they put it there, you know, because they want to keep an eye on what humanoid Odo's up to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there is something to that.
I think 100%. I think part both, but we know he has a main mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it makes sense for, we want to know what Odo's doing. And I think also maybe also protecting Odo, that Odo's okay as a solid.
I mean, I'm just wondering if, like, when Odo is being put on the ship, they go, right, you're going to, like, infiltrate them. And it's like, while you're on there, why don't you, like, and then I wonder if the other plot came after that. Maybe it was like, that was what the primary reason I was sending there. And it's like, well, while you're there, you may as well fuck shit up with them because that's fun.
Maybe, yeah. So just a note on the changeling. It looks like when you used to get loads of different colour slime and you used to mix them together, and just before they all sort of seeped together and ended up brown, you'd get this thing where it's kind of different layers and streaks of different colours. Feels to me like that's what you see. Here we go. Star Trek marketing. Slime's very in for kids at the minute. Let's get baby changelings. Yeah, baby changeling slime. Let's get it out there.
Like it.
To be fair, it probably was made out of slime, a lot of this.
I'm sure it was.
There's one bit, I'm pretty sure it was some sort of jelly, like where they lift it and the whole shape for just a sec before it melts.
Yeah.
And I like that Odo's taking this really holistic approach to it. Like, I'm going to talk to it. I'm going to be nice to it. I'm not going to make all the mistakes Dr. Mora did. And Cisco's like, call Dr. Mora. They're like, no, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and he just conveniently happens to be visiting his family.
Of course he does, yeah.
Like, I actually like this story that's between Dr. Morrow and Odo through this. And you get, because Odo has a lot of resentment towards him for how he was treated, which is why he's treating this baby changeling differently. That he isn't going to do what he said. And it's a nice little character arc of these two.
Actually, it was interesting, Elliot, you pronounced it Dr. Moreau, which, like, reminds me of the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
I wonder if Mora is some sort of, like, version
of
that.
Well, it sort of makes sense, doesn't it, when you think that is altered something is found into another creek, into something else.
Yeah, it does, actually. It fits.
I never thought of it like that, yeah.
But he's not played by Marlon Brando, sadly.
Yeah, oh God.
At that stage in his career, I'd take, what's he called, James Sloyan, I think, who's playing Dr. Mora. I'd take him over late stage Marlon Brando.
I know I mentioned this quite a few times when we're talking about Lower Decks, but the How Did This Get Made podcast, which has all three presenters have been in Star Trek in animated form. It's worth checking out their episode on the island of Dr. Moreau. They bring in so much batshit stuff that happened.
Oh, it was crazy.
And yeah.
There's a later version.
Yeah, the Brando one. Yeah. There's a documentary about it, which I forget what it's called. And the documentary is way better than the film. And it's all about the director and how he got shut out and he snuck back in dressed as an extra.
Brando leaves halfway through the film, I believe, and then they had to just work around what he'd already shot.
And that was the film where Brando was using earpieces to feed him the lines. And apparently at one point it picked up a local police CB and he just started reading it verbatim. So he was going like, you come to my island and I will make the chimpanzee men and single black male driving in a Ford Chevy down the and people were just like, what is he talking about? But anyway, so let's briefly cover the subplot then. So O'Brien's got to ring a bell for Kira's baby, and then Shakar turns up, and there's this
6
really
hours late.
yeah, there's this really tedious sort of bickering between the two of them. Like, don't look at my girlfriend's fanny, but it's my baby.
And by the way, for any American listeners, we mean vagina when we say fanny.
We do mean vagina when we say fanny, not bum. Though I'm sure Shakar wouldn't want O'Brien looking at Kira's bum either.
I think there's a one worse offence than the other.
I mean, let's be honest, though. America, quite often in birth, the two things become one anyway. So, you know, maybe...
America, if you watch American shows, that goes like, oh, and you just patting me on the fanny. It's like, what?
Yeah, fanny means bum in America. That's why a bum bag is called a fanny pack.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a vagina pack. That would be
no
too edgy, I think, for the average American, I feel. But yeah, it's this whole story is bullshit. But it's like it's when the midwife has a go at O'Brien for not having perfect rhythm on a bloody Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been trained for years in gong etiquette.
I'm not being funny, but we have to listen to that. So, shake, tambourine, gong. And it's fucking annoying as fuck. How is that bastard relaxing? That'd do me fucking head in.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this whole storyline, it's a clever way of incorporating in our visitor's pregnancy. However, the storyline does not pay dividends, really. Like, there's that terrible episode where, like, Kira and O'Brien sort of want to shag each other, and it's just like, I'll just go away.
I mean, there's even a bit where Dr. Bashir, this is how annoying all that setup was. Dr. Bashir goes, look, I've got some operations. I might come back later. Like, she's about to give birth, and he's going, I'm done with this shit. Like, I might come back later.
Yeah, but when you think of it, that is a changeling, and he knows there's a baby changeling on the station. Why the hell would he want to be sat there with Kira?
No, but I'm just going to throw out there that, like, to the way he kind of covers himself so well, that'd be a pretty big omission. It's like, yeah, you're giving birth, fuck it, I might show up later. Sorry, I think that might be slightly giving yourself away there.
Yeah, and like, can you imagine if he'd have got back to the Great Link? They'd have been like, you did what? You had to deliver Kira's baby but it was O'Brien's baby. Bloody hell, we think we've got complicated lives in the Great Link. But
I mean, I would give him if he said, it's like, look, if I can't make it, I'll send one of my nurses. They can, deliver a baby. That's absolutely fine. But he just goes, yeah, might turn up later.
Yeah.
Fucking worst doctor ever. Even if he's a changeling, that's not keeping your cover up.
So Mora turns up then. This is the more interesting story, at least.
Sorry, by the way, I should say, keep your cover up is another reference to the cover of the vagina. Anyway.
Thank you. It's good that we always point out when we're talking about vaginas, just so people can deal with it. So, yeah, Dr. Mora, he turns up and he's asking all these scientific questions. And I do like that it shows the different approach, and it's like, no, this guy does have a lot of knowledge about this, and he's knowing what things to ask, like, have you checked this level? Have you done that? Have you done the other? And in some ways, I think it's almost like a metaphor for first-time parents where they get overwhelmed when it's like, well, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this?
It also throws up so many questions in the best tradition of Star Trek about kind of experimentation. Like, is it okay to do this if it forwards scientific knowledge? Is it okay to do this which might hurt someone but means that they'll be able to progress and actually heal better? It's there's a lot of really interesting questions in this.
It's very clever with Dr. Morrow, because he almost tricks Sodo into making him stay to watch him to become consistent.
And he sort of wangles it round to, why don't we do some tests on you, Odo? Because you're the only changeling that's ever been made into a solid.
I mean, and it's like the wonderful exercise in empathy you get as the story goes on of them kind of switching positions halfway through. And there's even a bit where kind of Dr. Morrow says, it's like, No, I'm just observing. This is up to you to do. If we're gonna do this electric shock, you're not putting this shit on me this time, Sunshine. This is your decision to do it. If you
yeah, absolutely. And Odo's trying all this. I'm going to show it a ball, then I'm going to put it in a sphere, and we'll see if this works. And Dr. Morris like, if you give it a little zap, that'll make it do it much quicker.
Well, I like the fact that in the end they do say that it's like what Odo did was valuable in teaching it, because it didn't reach up to slap him out of the way.
Yeah.
It had empathy with him. It built up a relationship. So it's kind of like, again, I'm not saying any experimentation which causes pain is completely wrong, because there are cases forward stuff, and it's like it gets into a debate there. And this treats the viewer with a lot of respect in that way. It does treat it as a complex issue, not a right or wrong thing.
It's like Dr. Maru also comes out with some really valid stuff. He goes, the temperature's wrong in here. It should be 17 degrees centigrade. And Oda goes, why? He goes, because that's the best, the most ideal temperature for you changing shape. That's your most ideal temperatures. And he goes, look, it took me weeks and weeks to work that out.
Yeah.
Make it easy for it. Do it straight away. We don't have to experiment.
The same thing with the shock.
To get this.
Yeah.
We already know 17 degrees centigrade, this much humidity, it is the most comfortable.
And this much electricity to get it to change shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do get, again, like a bit of sympathy for Dr. Mora, because when it all gets bureaucratic and everything, and Dr. Mora's like, you're seeing the pressures I had on me. Like, I didn't necessarily want to do those things, but people were...
This would be worse, because he was under Cardassian occupation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And it's also the little smell that...
No, but what I was saying, Odo's thinking it bad that Starfleet will come in and take over. Imagine what it'd be like for Dr. Maru under Cardassian occupation, and they want results.
Actually, the only thing which that was a thing at the beginning I thought was kind of a bit weird. It's like Cisco pops his head around the door to check how it's all going. And he goes, well, soon Starfleet's going to want daily reports. Starfleet didn't want that from the beginning. And it also seemed no. To me, it did seem...
Well,
I would buy... Also, just 1 second, Nelly. I would buy that they would let the two of them have at it to begin with, but I'm surprised they didn't have like a team of scientists in there. Why did they just go, no, the two of them have got it? We won't send anyone.
I was also a bit funny about this, about how is Starfleet claiming rights on this? Because Odo works for the Bajorans as a security officer, and the Bajorans are part of Starfleet.
Actually, I'll give you this.
This is a Bajoran station.
Yeah, and he bought it off of Ferengi.
I can throw into that. The reason why I can sort of like square that circle is that Bajor does defer to the Federation in certain matters. Maybe like where they're still recovering from the occupation, they know Starfleet science is a bit more, has a bit more resources. Maybe they've done that behind the scenes.
But how Cisco comes in, to say we're taking over.
Yeah, I mean the thing which really surprised me, I could sort of like, I'll believe that off screen he's already had that conversation with the Federation and Bajor have had that conversation.
Let's bear in mind that, strictly speaking, they're not at war yet. That doesn't happen for a couple of more episodes.
No, they're not at war. I'm saying that where Bajor is recovering from the war, I would believe that they deferred Starfleet, who have an active, medical. They're just recovering from. They mention it so often that they're still recovering from the.
Yeah, they must have like rules in place
saying that we'll take over any.
Yeah, if there's a major scientific discovery, we get dibs or something.
But you get every copy of it, like you get all the information, so you get the results, but none of the work.
Yeah.
But the thing which more surprised me was the fact that Odo always argues with the captain and with basically everyone whenever they try and take over anything he's doing. Yeah, and this one he's going, yes, Captain. 3 bags full, Captain. I
think it's just shocked that I think it's the fact Cisco is trying to tell him lightly to get out to sort things out, have some results, or Starfleet will come in, and he realizes that Cisco doesn't want to do this, and there's no point arguing with Cisco about it.
I just don't think Odo's ever been that diplomatic in any other case.
True.
He seems extremely diplomatic here. It's probably just for expedience of the episode where you've got to get on with the episode, so you've got to let.
And it also gives him that empathy with what Dr. Maru did to him.
Yeah,
if he has to go a lot, if he's under pressure in the same way.
Again, it's one of those things like maybe just one line of him going, but you can't take it from him. Look, I'm trying to help you here, mate. And then he,
Yeah.
It is good how Odo goes from like he's all against these tests, but then when he actually sees it change shape, he's sort of buzzing from it. And Dr. Mora says, well, I smiled when you first did that. It is this seeing the experience from Mora's perspective that I think is really interesting.
I hope he never holds it against you someday.
Yeah, when he says, well, you know, you might see him grow up and do all these amazing things, or he might piss off and never talk to you again. Dig.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously seen the abyss because it turns into the water tentacle from the abyss, which is fine. I mean, that's the accepted form that gelatinous creatures take when they're trying to communicate with humans. So we'll let that one go.
There's also the level of CGI that was available. And let's bear in mind,
of course,
1990s CGI.
Yeah,
to be fair,
TV
CGI. And to be fair, this gelatinous one where it comes up and it forms the face actually stands up.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Like, bear in mind, the Phantom Menace was after this.
I will also say that it's like I'm glad that for most of it, it was a practical goo. You know, they didn't just try and CGI all the way through.
Yeah.
I fear nowadays they would do that, and it's like practical still has its place. Practical still looks wonderful for certain things. If you can do it practically, do it. If you need,
I agree.
Unless it's cost prohibitive, whereas this goo probably didn't cost them that much, you know.
Yeah. I love the bit where Odo's buzzing, so he wants to have a bit of a party, but we start the scene on Quark, and he's going, "Oh, profits are down. I'm going to start watering drinks again."
Yeah, like we do have a bit before that where they're doing all the shapes and stuff, and they get it first time that it stays in the shape. And Maru's going, "Oh, it took you 3 times to learn to do that." And Odo goes, "Actually, the first 2 times I deliberately didn't because I knew it would annoy you."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Which I think is quite nice that, you know, that he was already self-aware way before Maru knew that he was actually self-aware.
he was protesting effectively. And it's also nice to the level that their relationship has progressed here, that Odo is comfortable enough to give him that and go, "No, actually, it was working. I was just doing it to mess with you."
Yeah, but you have it very early on as well. Odo talks about the cube, which is one of the first shapes he was in that he held. And he goes, "I loved it, the right angles, but I didn't get to hold it. He moved it to something else. I'll let you hold in this and enjoy it."
Yeah.
Dr. Maru probably didn't know that he was enjoying that because at that point he didn't realize he was self-aware. And these are things that he's learned, that Odo is telling Dr. Maru for the first time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll even throw in, I think there is something I recognized in this is, you know, there's things which I think every parent, I'll speak for myself certainly, there's things which I look back on I wish I'd handled differently. And I think there is that thing of the older parent, like, I get the feeling like Odo's probably closer to being right on who Dr. Mora used to be than who he is now. Like he probably did do some things which are very questionable now, which he regrets, and you kind of feel that in his performance. I mean, expertly, you know, the guy who plays Dr. Mora is wonderful in both the episodes he's in. I think it's only 2 he's in. And yeah, I really recognize that as a parent, that feeling of regret, and you want to do things right, and you learn from your children maybe even doing things better than you did.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I think there's a sense of pride from Dr. Mora that Odo is doing it better than he could do it. But then, while it's all going lovely, we find out the changeling's dying. And we get, I know we've largely glossed over the stupid subplot, but they do try and juxtapose like the birth of the baby and the death of the changeling, which fine. And it does lead to a nice scene where you get Odo and Kira at the end, and there's this bond of they both kind of lost children that's not really their children.
Yeah. Can I just question something in this scene, though? Because I think it was a little bit insensitive. Like, Kira's talking about, it's like, I didn't even want a kid, and here is my living child, which I hand over to him, which will live perfectly fine. It doesn't even mention what's happened to Odo. Like, she must be aware that that's happened.
It's not quite the same. But Odo's so in love with Kira, he's not going to go, that were a bit insensitive.
Yeah, but I think it is.
No, but Odo's not going to tell her it is.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, it's like, I think the writers... He acts that way because the writers decide he acts that way. Whereas I think, like, in any real situation, that would be fucking insensitive to talk about, like, the child you held in your arms. Whereas he's just seen the child kind of die in a way, or I know he becomes part of him, but, like, he's watched that child he's nurtured die still. Like,
there's part of this that gets me. When the child's ill, the changeling.
Mm-hmm.
So... they take it to Dr. Bashir's infirmary. And then it's Dr. Maru and Dr. Bashir who go leave us Odo to try sort it. And I wonder if Bashir had gone, leave me while I try sort things out, if he'd have been able to save it by linking.
Yeah, if it had been just him, but he can't reveal that he's a changeling in front of Dr. Mora. Yeah.
I think it would also... Yeah, but like then the changeling would just kill Mora and done it.
True.
Oh, he died touching that electrical pylon,
Yeah. So I wonder, again, we know this changeling doesn't make it back. But if he had got back to the link, he'd have probably have had some serious questions to answer there about,
I've dropped off.
No worries. He'd probably have some serious questions to answer, like, well, you were the chief medical officer on the station and you let a changeling die under your watch. So, yeah, I think Bashir changeling might have been in trouble if he'd have got back, letting one die.
The only thing I think would have been, I don't know why I thought this when I was watching this now. It would have been kind of nice if Odo's got the memories of the kind of changeling, which like the link kind of thing. And then also, it means that last scene is insensitive because it doesn't die because it literally lives on within him. As it was, he died. As it was, it did die, and it just gave Odo his shape-shifting ability back.
Yeah, and you could have had a really nice bit where Mora could have said something like, "Oh, I'm sure the changeling was very fond of you, Odo," and Odo could have said, "Well, I've got its memories and it was fond of you as well," or something like that. Would have been nice.
But nice.
And actually, it thought you were a twat, keeping telling me to electrocute him.
Like, I dropped out for a bit when I was saying about Bashir and all, like, if he could have saved it. But I wonder if, like, when it did die, if Bashir was really upset.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Don't say.
Mm.
Like, how hard was it for the changeling to see that happen?
The good thing is, like, the changeling can still play that because it's like Bashir would be upset. So
yeah, exactly.
Easy day in the office.
So the outcome then, which we've kind of skipped over, but it's a little bit convenient plot devicey that it just goops into Odo and that gives him turns him back into a changeling, but is what it is.
Space magic.
I think that is space magic, actually. I think we can chalk that up to space magic.
I mean, I think when she gets the Great Link, it's all kind of space magic. The Great Link, it does. It is a nice get out of jail free card. They can just link and that's.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of the arc within the arc of Odo as a solid. Wasn't that long, all told, really.
No, but it was nice how this episode, how he reconnected with Dr. Maru and he's now going to keep in touch with Eamon. He realizes that he actually cared, and he realizes he sees things from his point of view, what he had to do with Odo.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's nice.
It's a good character piece for Odo and everything.
Well, Dr. Maru is almost his dad when you think about it.
And you do get those moments with kind of your parents where, like, or any family member, where you have an argument and then you're both apologizing, but you're both taking on the blame. And it felt a lot like that. The second half, they're both praising each other's approach and going like, no, I was wrong. You showed empathy. And it responds to that. No, I was wrong. I did need to do some things to try and encourage it, like which.
It's really good for them too. And it's a shame we never got Dr. Mora again. Like, it'd have been good if he'd have visited Odo in season 7 when he's ill. That'd have been a good time to bring him back. But unfortunately, I don't know whether it's actor availability or what, but sadly we don't get that.
Because we do see that Odo sends in reports and all that.
Yes, we do,
they're very much like his security reports.
Yeah. It felt like a more evolved, like, it evolved from the relationship Data had with his the guy who puts him in trial, who he then
Maddox. Yeah,
which he writes off to. Like, you see him, like, there's Data's
Data's there,
to him, and it feels like they've seen that relationship. They haven't done exactly the same, but they've kind of. It feels like they've. It's almost like that's the starting point. They've evolved it from there. Like, let's make him his dad. Let's kind of have all this extra complexity.
It's one of them that you can imagine that they had a cordial relationship from this point onwards. But it would have been nice to have seen him again. But there you go.
Yeah, and what we leave behind, he doesn't even go. It's like, oh, by the way, tell Dad that I'll miss him.
Nah. So next week, then, we've got the epic two-parter, which I always get these the wrong way around. So it's In Purgatory's Shadow and By Inferno's Light, I think.
You have to be in the shadow of Purgatory before you go into the light of Inferno.
That's it. Absolutely, you do.
I have watched these next 2 episodes more than any other episodes of Star Trek.
Okay.
They are particularly good one, and I think
two of my personal all-time favorite episodes.
Yeah, I think they're great episodes, and they are very much the pivot point of DS9. These are absolute key episodes for the Dominion War, so really excited to talk about them next week.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is what leads to the finale. The events in this get you there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's all been a bit low key with Dominion War up to next week, what we're covering next week.
Yeah, this is a major game changer, so really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many episodes we're into the Dominion War yet.
Quite a few.
But like all the other ones, add a little bit to the jigsaw. This one is a whole, like, this is a corner of the sky. It feels
this absolutely changes the game completely. But if you want to get in touch with us, we're all over social media. Search for us on Facebook. We're at RetrekPod on Twitter, retrekpod@gmail.com. Elliot's got Retrek Model Studios on there, where you're working on the Flying Sub, I believe.
I'm working on this at the moment, the Flying Sub. It's quite a large model.
It is a large model, so go and check that out. Dr. Squee, as you mentioned, you've got a rather Trek-appropriate interview up on YouTube at the minute.
Yes, if you go to youtube.com/Dr. Squee, you can see my interview with Alexander Siddig, or enjoy the show this Tuesday, 6 till 8, sw20radio.co.uk, where I'm actually conducting an interview tomorrow with the director of a film called The Last Deal, which is all about like the this guy who was dealing with drugs before it became legal, and then when it becomes legalized, it actually makes it more difficult for him. So he tries to pull off one last hit, one last huge deal, and everything goes right. It's a really great film.
Oh, excellent.
And stuff. Yeah, I'd actually highly recommend it. When you get sent a lot of independent screeners, quality may vary, but there can be some real corkers, and I really enjoyed this one.
Fantastic. So check that out, and we'll be back next week to talk about a big two-parter. But thanks for trekking with us this time, and we will see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Goodbye.
LLAP and drag off.